City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir, and I know what you're thinking. You can hear the voice right now, and you can say, "Oh man, that's not Paul." And then if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere that you can see us, you're going, "That's definitely not Paul. He's about 6 feet too short, and it looks about 50 years younger." And you would be correct, because I am Josh Fenwick. I'm his producer, and I'm also his guest host today. So welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir. We got an absolutely stacked show for you this morning. Kiera Lyons, the CCAA Women's Coach of the Year, she'll be joining us in studio, head coach of the NAIT Ooks Women's basketball team. Pretty amped up for that. Paul did pre-record an interview with Alan Gibb out of Raymond, Alberta, and their women's team. So we'll be running that at 10:40. And then I'll be joined by Andrew Schlecht of The Athletic at 11:20 to talk about the Thunder and the MVP race and everything that's going on in the NBA. So no traditional deep dive today, but alas, we got something going on nonetheless. Poll question today, pretty simple. Who is coming out of the West? Your choices are the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Spurs, or the Nuggets. If you got something else, comment it under. We'll get into it. Lots to talk about relating to the NBA. And I got to be honest, pretty nervous. This is the first time hosting a show, so hopefully the text line is active, which you can get to us, 833-401-1440. That's right, 833-401-1440. That is our text line to get in on the conversation. You can also watch us on YouTube, Sports 1440 AM, or on X, the Everything app. It's all happening on X. Also, Sports 1440. Instagram, Sports 1440 AM. Same with Twitch. And if you miss today's show, you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple. That's where it is. So anyways, the poll question. Who's going to come out of the West? I chose this question because I think it's very intriguing. I think everyone would say it's the Oklahoma City Thunder because they won the championship last year. They have the reigning MVP who might be going back-to-back this year. We'll get into that at 11 o'clock. And they're super, super deep. However, I have issues with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have some serious problems inside, rebounding. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds. They don't box out particularly well. If Chet isn't on the floor, or Isaiah Hartenstein for that matter, they have a tough time crashing the boards because everyone else is about 6'7", and it's tough to go up against that when your opponents are teams like the Denver Nuggets, who Jokic is an absolute madman on the boards. He catches it with one hand and then just tosses it down the court. Like he knows where the ball is going to go. Or a San Antonio Spurs with Luke Cornett, or the 7'4" alien and Victor Wembanyama. Like all these other teams in the West have height. And on top of that, their centers have girth. They're a little more. They're a little heavier and stronger than a guy like Chet Holmgren, who spends a lot of time on the floor because you got to rebound to win games. And what I remember from the night that the Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played the Celtics, and Shai broke the record for most consecutive 20-plus point game performances in NBA history. Shout out, Canadian boy. They gave up 8 offensive rebounds in the first 2 periods, or quarters, my apologies. And I think the Celtics converted on every single offensive rebound except for one. And that's just in the first half. Like, that's a lot of second chance points to be given up. I like the Nuggets. They've had some real health problems, but Jamal Murray, again, good Canadian boy, really turning it on. He had a 50-pointer just the other night, and he did it with 6 free throws, I believe. Unreal. Like, that's to do that is insane. You need free throws to win, and he's like, hey, you know what? Give me 6 of them things, and we'll be fine. And then, of course, they have probably the greatest skill player in the NBA in Nikola Jokic last night against the Jazz. Close one with the Jazz, by the way. 33 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists. He almost had a 20-20-20 game the other night, but he came up short on the assists. I believe he had 19 against the Pacers, where Andrew Nembhard had 21, set the Pacers franchise record, most by a Canadian since Steve Nash. Fun fact. So I like the Nuggets. They gave the Thunder a lot of trouble last year. I mean, they went to 7, and it was pretty clear that in that series, whoever won was going to be the champs because we didn't think the East had it. Of course, we were proven a little wrong because the Pacers took them all the way to Game 7, and I personally think would have won if Tyrese Halliburton didn't go down with his unfortunate Achilles injury. But alas, we're playing ifs and buts. The Thunder are the world champions. And then the Timberwolves, they have the guy in Ant Edwards who's just an offensive machine. I still have problems with Rudy Gobert. He's a serious liability on offense and anywhere on the perimeter, which is they're a bad matchup for the Thunder. Or the Thunder are a bad matchup for them, I guess. Because you can just pick apart Rudy Gobert on the outside and then play to the inside. You can start running some cuts and things like that to get inside. So do I think the Timberwolves will come out of the West? I personally don't think so. I think they're the least likely of all those guys. Who I do think is going to come out of the West, my vote, the San Antonio Spurs. And I know, you got to learn to lose before you can learn to win, yada, 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 all that stuff. Victor Wembanyama, and everyone says, he hasn't played in the NBA playoffs before. Victor Wembanyama played in the Olympics and played in the gold medal game where he was probably the second, maybe third best player on the court against the United States of America and made it close. I mean, Steph had to drop 50 on him. He had that absolutely sick 3 where he just fell back. That was awesome. But Wemby knows what it takes to win. This guy, I think, is the number one competitor in the NBA right now. Coming to the All-Star game saying, I'm not here for fun, I'm here to win. And being genuinely crying happy tears when you come back from down big in the fourth quarter. This is a guy that cares so much about basketball. I can't imagine a world where he doesn't step it up in the playoffs. I know he takes some iffy mid-range jumpers here and there, but we saw what he did coming into the season. It was unreal. And then he comes back from injury and he's almost better. That is insane to me that he comes back and he's almost better after a huge injury. And then he opens the floor up for so many other guys on the Spurs because Steph Castle is a guy that absolutely drives to the bat. He's a great slasher. When Wemby's on the court, he has this gravity around him where it forces 3 guys to sort of cover him because him on the roll, he's taller than everybody. He can just lay it over everyone. So they need that coverage. And if he takes 3 defenders with him, that opens up a lane for a guy to cut through and do what they do best, lay the ball into the basket. Easiest 2 points in the game. So if I was picking someone to come out of the West, I would say it is the San Antonio Spurs. A couple other headlines from around just the basketball world, or I think this is the number one thing. Shout out Canada. The Toronto Tempo, they win the coin flip in the NBA expansion draft. They elect to choose second in that expansion draft, so they get the earlier pick in the actual WNBA draft. Pretty amped up. The Tempo, they're doing a Canada takeover. I think everything about the Tempo is shaping up in a good way. So I'm really looking forward to the WNBA season this year. I truly I'm really amped up. I think this is the first time in a while that I've been really excited. I mean, I was excited to see Caitlin Clark play, and she's must-view television. But now Canada's got its own basketball team in the WNBA, and I know it's an expansion team, so the first season might not be so hot, but hey, never say never. The Golden Knights in the NHL, they come into the league and they go to the finals the year of their expansion. So I'm not willing to write things off for the Thunder quite yet, or for the Tempo quite yet. My apologies. 3 from deep. There's some good things here. Obviously, the Tempo is my first one. I think this is super exciting. that they're getting that earlier pick in the WNBA draft. It's something for all of us to look forward to. I'm amped up for that. The MVP race. Whew. Doggy, I think this is the closest MVP race I can remember in a long time. Like, I think you have to go back with the most amount of people, because we're talking about 4 players in the NBA that have a bid for the MVP. Luka is absolutely insane. Single Luka, as NBA Twitter has been calling him since his fiance left and took the kids. He's been on an insane heater. Obviously, Shea has been the pinnacle of consistency in the NBA and efficiency. He's putting up efficiency numbers that we really haven't seen since 2016 Steph, who, in case you don't remember, won the MVP unanimously that year. They also went 73-9, and he was a huge thing to that. Nikola Jokic, again, he's a center who's leading the league in rebounds and assists, averaging a triple-double. I think there's a bit of voters fatigue with Nikola Jokic, though, already. He's won 3. Obviously, that year with Joel Embiid was in the middle of him being the first person to three-peat the MVP since Larry Bird back in the 80s. I think there's some voter fatigue with him, but I think he has one of the best. I think, in my opinion, he has the best case, because the Nuggets are a totally different team without him on the floor. Like, just not even game to game or when he was out with injury or anything, because they still won some games. I'm talking like shift to shift. When he's off the court, if Jamal Murray's not there, which he needs to be, but he also needs to be there with Jokic, so he becomes dog tired. They don't have that other like playmaker, because as much as I love Jamal Murray, he's a guy that scores the ball. And Aaron Gordon is a guy who was made in a lab to play with Nikola Jokic. So I think his singular importance to the Denver Nuggets is so vastly, incredibly important. It makes it bigger for him. That's his bid for the MVP. However, I think the MVP this year is Victor Wembanyama, as I've already talked about with the San Antonio Spurs. He's lost 1 game since February 1st with the Spurs. I think they've lost 2 games entirely, but he's lost 1. He's a 23-1 since February 1st, and his game has gone up another level. And we talked about that gravity, which to me, it's gravity that I haven't seen since that 2016 Steph, or what Steph does for the Warriors, because he's so dangerous on the outside that everyone sort of has to focus on him, that it makes lanes open for everyone else, or it opens the floor up for everyone else, or it gets other shooters better looks. And Wemby on the roll, making it easier for everyone else to score and making it more efficient for everyone to score. Like, when we get to 11, I'll really break down the MVP. But for me, I think Victor Wembanyama is the MVP. But again, like, this is so close all the way around. And we didn't even mention like guy like Jaylen Brown, who's been doing it nonstop for the Celtics in Jason Tatum's absence, who last night had a huge double-double for the Celtics, by the way. Shout out JT. But yeah, I just, like, he's right there, but I think he's that tier below the other 4 that I've already mentioned. But that's the top 5. And one of those first 4 guys I mentioned isn't going to be a finalist. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be Luka Doncic, because he's really just come on in the last 2 months. So I think the voters are pretty good with recency bias and not voting for the guy who just came on late. Whereas like Shea, again, the pinnacle of consistency and efficiency, he holds that record, and I believe it's still active for most consecutive 20-plus point game performances in NBA history. And he's doing it on almost 50, 40, 90 shooting. Like, that is efficiency and consistency like no one has ever heard of. But Wemby just, I can't get over Wemby so much. I have everything that I need to discuss this at 11. And then the other 3. Here's number 3. LSU Duke last night in the women's March Madness tournament. I don't think I've ever, actually that's not true. I've seen a shot like that. Kawhi Leonard in Game 7 against the 76ers. Bounce, goes in. Last night, Duke versus LSU. Duke gets a 3 off, and it just spins around and around and around and around, and then finally just pops up and drops in. Whew. Wow. Kim Mulkey, obviously pretty fired up after that because her team lost. And again, as I said on the Triple S, if you're a listener, probably the scariest person on the face of the planet. That is not someone that I want to be stared down by in the slightest. Tiger texts in. You guys can all text in. 833-401-1440. Tiger says, "You're a bartender, Mickey Finn." Tiger, where are we coming from here? Mickey Finn? What's happening? So anyways, that's my 3 from deep. Now, again, the loaded show today. Coming up just after the break, we've got Kiera Lyons, head coach of the NAIT Ooks women's basketball team, the CCAA Coach of the Year. Pretty fired up for that interview. And then interview with Alan Gibb from Raymond Alberta that Paul pre-recorded earlier this week. And then I'll be joined by Andrew Schlecht of The Athletic. And he covers the Thunder and does their weekly newsletter. So amped up for all of that. Keep it locked here on Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir with guest host Josh Fenwick. We'll be right back after these messages. Hoop City with Paul Sir. I know I'm not Paul Sir. I am far too short and far too young to be Paul Sir. He's away on vacation with the family. Wishing him all the best in California while we spend the rest of us freezing our butts off in the Edmonton cold. But very excited for this interview as we are joined in studio by the NAIT Ooks women's basketball head coach, Kiera Lyons, the CCAA Coach of the Year. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, like I told you in the break here, I did a lot of prep for this interview. I'm very stressed. First interview I've ever done, so forgive any of my ignorance in this process here.
Don't even worry, and I might call you out on it if you're cool with it.
I fully expect you to. From what I understand, you're a straight to business sort of coach. So
depends on the day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you go to the national championships essentially, losing the bronze medal game. That's sort of tough, but it was a good season nonetheless. 17-3. Like, this is your 4th year with NAIT. What have you learned in these 4 years that made you guys as dominant this year as you were?
And just to start, we lost in the bronze semi. So the CCAA has a backdoor bronze. Actually, first time I'd ever experienced that. Lost in the semi, so didn't have an opportunity to play in the actual bronze game. But I'm really proud of how the girls played in our last one. So tough way to lose, but also if you're going to go out, it was a good way to do it. I mean, I don't know how much time you have. If I could tell you all the things that I've learned over the last 4 years. Every year it's a new group, new challenges, completely different season and things that you have to face with different girls and different opponents, obviously. But it's one of the things that I love about this job is that I'm continuously learning. There is no ceiling. There are challenges that are new all of the time, and you're always learning, always growing, always developing. And I've been told that if you stop learning as a head coach, it's time to hang it up.
I think that's sage advice.
I mean, that might have been Paul Sir, honestly.
Oh, really?
It might have been.
He's a smart guy. He might have coached once or twice in his life. You talk about challenges. I think there's going to be this might be a big challenge for you. You have six players this year that are 4th or 5th years. I know Micah Reed is a 5th year, and Rory Vandermeer, she's a 4th year as well. Was she the 2nd leading scorer in all of Canada, Peyton Nielsen?
I don't know about all of Canada. She was the 2nd lead. I don't think it was all of Canada, but she was the 2nd leading scorer in the ACAC.
Right.
I think 18.4 points per game. She had an absolutely unbelievable stretch at the peak of our season. But yeah, it's an interesting thing because over the last 4 years, like we've been building and developing and getting to this point where we knew that we had a chance at being a contender in the ACAC and being able to go to nationals and compete there. And it now the rebuild kind of begins again. We graduate. We had 4 5th years. We had Sadie Setvold, Micah Reed, Peyton Nielsen, and Michaela Rose, who all used up all 5 years, which is something that is incredibly special and a really hard thing to do and doesn't happen, especially at NAIT, very often. just because of the programs. And then, we lose a couple fourth years, some big pieces. Rory Vandermeer, like you said, she's in her fourth year, and her program has kind of taken her out. And then there's a few others that are, deciding on kind of where they want to head. And so there's definitely a lot of changes and movement happening on our roster. But it's also an exciting kind of change of the guard. We've got some incredible rookies, just wonderful people. Our third and fourth years are leaders that are going to be stepping into bigger roles. It's really exciting to kind of see how our culture shifts and what we look like with some younger energy and just some different people in leadership positions.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. So what sort of challenge does recruiting pose? Because I know that you just brought up that, like, NAIT, the programs are shorter, and also, like, I have a feeling that some people do try to make it to that, like, Can West, U of A, McEwen schools so they can play bigger competition. Like, what sort of challenges do you face when you're trying to recruit players?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. There are so many U Sport teams now as well, right? And so the opportunities to play at the next level there's a lot more than it used to be. It used to be a pretty clear-cut line between, CIS and ACAC, whereas now it's growing. There's lots of new U Sport young teams that are trying to get their footing and find a way to be competitive. And so the recruiting part of that can be challenging, just because girls that would have been ACAC girls maybe in the past are now finding homes in U Sport. And then, our programs are, we're a polytechnic school, so our programs are pretty specific. And so anybody that doesn't know really exactly what they want to do, it's not really a place where you can just take general sciences and figure out what you'd like. And the programs are shorter generally. I think most of them are 2 years or 3 years at most. There's a few programs that are with 4, but that's something that I also emphasize when I'm recruiting and when I'm talking to girls before they come here is, what is your plan academically? Can we do more than one program? I believe that any education is good education, and if you can take more than one program and add some different, letters behind your name on your resume, that's always a good thing. And just the experience of being in an educational institution for that long, I think, is wonderful. So we have those conversations before they come here. Like, are you planning on playing? Like, how long do you plan on playing? Are you going to be here 1 year, 2 years? Like, the way that we try and teach the game and how we try and develop players, you need more time. You need between 3 and 5 years to really start to understand our systems and the way that we play and to know your teammates well enough to be able to play with them and have enough reps for it to be meaningful. So it's something I talk a lot about with girls when they're coming to NAIT or when they're, I'm recruiting them, and just to see what their plan is so that we can have enough time to develop.
Yeah, no, I totally get it on that front. So you do focus a lot on, I know there's a piece written about you somewhere on the NAIT website that I was reading that you do really focus on education first.
Yeah, and I think every coach does. At the end of the day, you are leaving that institution with some sort of academic program or diploma or degree or whatever it is. And like I said, I really do think that any education is good education. I think the people that you meet, the way that you learn to operate within a classroom or online, your time management, like, it's all encompassing. And so being a student athlete is, I think, such a wonderful way to set you up for the rest of your life, because it's so challenging, and it just leaves you with skills that a lot of people don't learn for a long period of time in their life. And so being able to be a student and find academic success while, finding success on the floor is really important. And we talk about being a high achiever in all areas of your life. How you do what is that saying? How you do one thing is how you do everything. That's not exactly right, but you get the gist.
I get the gist, yeah.
You get the gist. So yeah, we just talk about being a high achiever, and that translates in every area, especially into academics.
Yeah. I think it's sort of time to bury the lead here. CCAA Women's Coach of the Year. Congratulations. Like, what did that mean to you?
Thank you. I was really surprised, if I'm completely honest, to get recognition in the ACAC, first and foremost, like from my peers, from, the amount of amazing coaches that are in Alberta and in our conference, was incredibly flattering. And then to win it at the national level, I was very surprised. I didn't really know what to expect. And the fact that I won was just very flattering and obviously just a really nice bonus on the season.
Yeah, it's a cool looking ring too.
Yeah.
That's personalized. That's very nice. So why don't we go back in your coaching career? Because before NAIT, you were with the Stingers on the bench. Am I correct in that?
Yes. Yeah.
So how long were you with the Stingers? Like from their inception, or
just the one season? Well, as a coach, I had been involved with the Stingers since the inception. So I had been like their in-game host. I did some media for them, and was a part of a podcast and did all these kinds of different things. And then I ended up joining the coaching staff in 2021, the year that we hosted and won the championship. But it was just one season, and then after that, I got right into coaching at NAIT. It was a really nice kind of reintroduction back into coaching. Like basketball had always been in the background of whatever I was doing and whatever career that I was pursuing at that time. But it was really sort of what brought me back to, wow, this is something I could really do.
Yeah. So being with them from the inception and, like you said, in-game host, you took the RATV program at NAIT?
I did, yeah.
You and I cut from the same cloth. Our intern was the one that brought it up. She said, I think I heard from a friend that she did that, and you were trying to convince some other student, one of your players, to be like, oh yeah, it's a good program. Like if you're trying to extend, like, yeah, you should go and take that. So when you came out of that, were you super sports focused, or were you like, maybe this can be a thing into coaching, or did that even cross your mind?
No, at that time I hadn't really thought about coaching. Hadn't thought about coaching as a career at all. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like I never thought I would be. I didn't think that this would be something I would do. It kind of caught me by surprise as well. But I took the program. I actually did the color commentary for the NAIT games, for the basketball games, and then helped out with volleyball when I could. I don't know nearly as much about volleyball. Shout out to Josh Ryan, who was my partner, and
there we go.
Knew a lot about it. So I did that, and I thought about just trying to get into sports media somehow. I knew that sports was something that I wanted to pursue. I didn't really know in what avenue, but I was like, oh, you know what? I think that would be a fun way to do it. Worked at CTV after I got out, realized that it wasn't for me. And, the sports media stuff is fun. I still do some color commentary. I've done it with Paul Sir at Stingers. Nice. I've done the U Sport Nationals. I've done the ACAC Nationals. And I like to kind of keep my feet wet, just be able to do that. It also helps me brush up on my basketball knowledge as well. But yeah, I wanted to be on the training side, the actual sports side, and not so much the media, and that became clear pretty quickly.
Yeah, we actually got a text in here from an old broadcasting partner of yours. He says, hey Josh, saw you had Kiera on. Kiera and I broadcasted Ooks basketball together back in 16-17, and we did the women's nationals together. Great to see the success she's had. Michael Menzies.
Oh, hello Michael. Yeah, I've had a couple, but yeah, he was another one, like so easy to work with, so knowledgeable. It was so, he made my life so easy. That was the nice thing about the play-by-play partners that I had, Josh, Michael, and there's a couple others as well. I mean, Doug McLean, I've done it with him a decent amount, and Mark Majot. Both of them are phenomenal. Like they make it so easy, yeah. But yeah, when you have a really good play-by-play partner that knows what's going on, it makes it very, very simple, and I've been very blessed to have some wonderful partners.
Yeah. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir, with guest host Josh Fenwick. We're joined by Kiera Lyon, the NAIT Ooks women's basketball head coach. Oh boy, this is a bad look on me.
Don't even stress. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So what was one of your favorite moments of the season? I know there were some standouts, like Micah Reed had that 14 three-pointer game. I believe that set the record. Peyton Nielsen, maybe this season broke a scoring record, or maybe that was last season. I'm not totally sure. But 17 and 3, there's got to be some like really solid memories in there, maybe even off the court. Yeah,
I think it's interesting actually. Our meeting in our locker room after our last game, that was really what we talked about. It was such a fun group. They loved each other so much. Their energy was contagious. Everywhere we went, people made comments about like, wow, they look like they're having so much fun. The energy is so positive, and I think that's what I'm going to take away from this year, is just how special the group was and how much fun they had. And it's not like that every year, and it's a grind. Being a student athlete is an absolute grind, and it has its ups and downs every season where you're worn out and you're exhausted, and you still have to show up for everything that you're expected to show up for, your training, your practices, your games, your classes, your everything that you're doing. And they were able to do that while having a ton of fun. We went to Victoria this year in the preseason, and that was really special and really fun. That's really the first trip that we've been able to take together as a program since we took over. And then being able to go to Montreal and be downtown and be a part of a national championship. And Dawson was such an incredible host, and it's just something that I know that the girls will remember for the rest of their lives. And I really hope that they look back on this season the way that our coaching staff does, with just nothing but pride and memories of the relationships that they've made and how much fun they had.
That's great. That's awesome. So going into the off season, what's the big plan here?
I feel like I haven't been able to slow down since I got back. So, we've got our ID camp coming up April 3rd, 4th. So if you've got anybody that's interested in signing up and being a part of our ID camp, the link is in our bio on our Instagram. It's also on our athletics website. So if you know anybody that's interested, and grades 10 to 12, even if they're not going into college, it's a great thing to get experience going to ID camps and being nervous and, being able to play through that. So, nice little shameless plug with that one. But yeah, recruiting and off-season training, we train all year round. So the girls that are coming back, we'll have our open gyms and our small group sessions, and the girls lift all summer, and I'm a part of that. I'm also helping coach with Basketball Alberta this summer, so I'll be doing assisting with the U17 girls team. And yeah, I think hopefully somewhere in the next couple of weeks, take a little bit of a break and relax. It's after being in Briarcrest for a week and then a couple days at home and then a week in Montreal, I feel like there's a lot of admin stuff and other things that I've missed out on that kind of piled up. And it's my first experience as a coach coming back from nationals late in the season. So, all that kind of work that piles up as you're away, it's something I need to take care of. And then, hopefully take a rest at some point.
I'm sure you'll get a rest eventually, or, sleep when you're dead.
Yeah,
much like
right?
me.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I can't say how much I appreciate you coming in this morning. Really filled out the lineup today. I was really stressing. So thanks for coming in and making it so easy for my first interview. And best of luck next season and this off season and with Alberta basketball.
Thank you, and I appreciate the interest. It's such a nice thing to have media outlets reaching out and interested in women's sports, because it is such a special thing, and it's caught such a high that it's nice to be able to have interest from media outlets. So I appreciate you having me here.
Oh, hey, thanks so much for coming in. Coming up on the big program here, we're going to be joined by Alan Gibb from Raymond, Alberta, pre-recorded interview with Paul. So keep it locked here on Sports 1440, Edmonton's sports leader. Josh Fenwick here, sitting in for Paul Sir on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have an interview here that Paul recorded with Alan Gibb from Raymond, Alberta, coaching. He's a 5A championship coach. His daughter, Delaney, playing down at BYU. Absolutely insane player for BYU. If you haven't checked her out, got to do that. YouTube the clips. She's absolutely unreal. So please go give it a look. So here is Paul's interview with Alan Gibb from Raymond, Alberta.
40, and of course on all of our podcast networks and with YouTube. You can watch us anytime, anywhere. But I'm pleased to be joined with the head coach of the new 5A category Girls High School Basketball Championship, Alan Gibb. Alan, thanks so much for making time for me.
No, thanks. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for doing that.
Well, Alan, I was able to get over last Friday and watch your team defeat McGrath, and we spoke briefly afterwards, and I believe you said it was the 6th time you played a very good McGrath team all year. I know you were 6-0 against them, but first of all, how do you feel about Alberta going to a 5A category?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think a lot of, if you look at the U.S. side of things. They've got 5A and 6A, and so I think it's good. I think it gives an opportunity for some schools to go 4A as well. So it just gives more opportunity to play in a provincial championship type game. And then from the 5A standpoint, I think for us anyways, it's nice. Sometimes when we were doing 4A and you'd get 16 teams, that's a little tough with 16 boys and 16 girls teams to make everything happen. And I think it's tough. Like if you look at the US, the state side, how they do it versus how we do it, it's hard. We would have a game on a Thursday night, used to be, and then 2 on Friday and then 1 on Saturday. That's 4 games in 3 days. And that's tough to do. And then they went to, I think it was 2 on Thursday and 1 Friday, 1 Saturday. And that's great. But, I think going to 3 games is nice. Obviously, if you can get that 1, 2, 3, or 4 spot, you get a bye. And so I like it. I like that there's 12 teams in it. I think that it gives an opportunity, like a Spruce Grove who went and won 4A this year, an opportunity to hang a banner in a year that would be a little tougher, maybe in the 5A. And so I think it's a good thing. Yeah, I do. For us, whether it's 4A or 5A, I think, in the end, it maybe doesn't really matter. I mean, for us, we're competing, in either category but yeah, I don't see any downside to it.
I think that's well put, and I fully agree with you. I think having the 5A ability to reduce the size of the best teams, being in a 12-team as opposed to a 16-team event, and you hit it right on the head, Alan. Like at no other point, unless you go to certain tournaments, do you ever play 2 games in one day. But to be vying for the ultimate championship in a province and have to play 2 games in one day, that really stretches, I think, what the athletes are supposed to be doing, which is to be putting their best on the court against the best opponents that they can possibly play against.
Yeah, for sure.
So 4A or 5A, this is 3 in a row, correct?
No, we had a break last year. We had 3 in a row. And then last year we were basically had a young group of kids. I think I had 6 grade 10s on the team and rolled with them, and now they're all grade 11s. So yeah, last year we were in the provincial championship. We lost to Spruce Grove in Foothills. I think in the quarterfinals they went on to lose in the 4A championship game to Scona. So we had a good showing, but just a really young team. Pushed Spruce Grove to the limit. I think we were down 4 or 6 with a few minutes left. And anyways, yeah, so last year was a break, but we did with Delaney in grade 10, 11, and 12, we were able to win 3 in a row. And then last year was not. And then this year we're starting, hopefully working on another 3-peat. So
pretty exciting thought at that. And Alan, talk about this year's team. You had the youngsters from last year maturing. I'll give you a quick observation. One of the things that Raymond and McGrath and Cardston are noted for are all-around athletes, multi-sport athletes. But one thing that just jumped right out at me, having seen your team for the first time this year, was I don't want to use the term just athletic, because I think that's a kind of a nebulous term that I really don't know what that means, other than watching your girls play. They all can run, and they all have their fitness was excellent. Their court speed was excellent. Your systems are very, very good. And you had several players that could really shoot the 3 out of your sets, and you look for each other very, very well. Excellent teamwork. But what struck me was the competitiveness and the court speed that your girls possess. Does that come from being, well, number one, good athletes, but number 2, multi-sport athletes?
Yeah, I think it could, it could come from that. But I think, just generally speaking, I think that this year we were lucky to have a really deep team of young athletes, no seniors. So you've got kids that are really competing to play. I had 11 kids on the team, and I was, this was a unique year for us in that, especially in a small town, you don't always have a deep team. You might have, a deep 2 or 3, but right. This year we had a unique situation in Raymond that just came together with 11 kids that really deserved to play. I think I had 7 grade 11s and 4 grade 10s. And I had 11 kids that deserve to play and that can all develop and play in the future. I mean, my 11th kid on the bench at the start of the year is a grade 10 kid that is long and athletic, maybe the most athletic kid in the whole group. And she played JV. They won a JV championship and shoots it really well. A great volleyball kid. And she's 10th, 11th man. And, I've got to find a way for her to be part of it next year. And you didn't even see her as part of this group. So in practice, they go hard. This is the first year, like in previous years, I had my starters against the backups, and there's no chance. Like I had to just mix them up. This year I can put my starters against my subs, and I think the subs are going to win. And that's the kind of grittiness that they have. Obviously the starters, do have some upside, some, there's a reason they're a starter, but the backups, whether we're doing a shooting drill or whether we're practicing offensive sets, whether we're just playing, 3-on-3 or 1-on-1, the subs are consistently beating my starters this year. And the competitive level has been, something that's I haven't experienced before as a coach. And that probably you saw that going in. And I think teams that schemed against us, they counted on stopping, a Hayden Hall or Pippa, limiting them. And then, it's funny, in that provincial final, I'm watching Quincy Baines and Elle and kids coming off the bench, knock down threes and take it to the hole and finish, with Hayden having 3 points against McGrath and Pippa having 11 when they averaged in the 20s. And we're still spanking that team. And it's because those other kids are so good, and you can't focus. I mean, you can try to focus on the top 2 kids, but it's just not possible with this team. It's the deepest team I've ever had. It's a competitive from top to bottom. They're probably the most competitive team I've ever had. I think with some of Delaney's teams in grade 10, 11, and 12, you can argue. I mean, talk to certain individuals in Raymond, they'll argue that Delaney's grade 10 year was the best team we've ever seen. I look at Delaney's grade 12 year as the most firepower that we've ever had but that was with 3 or 4 kids, but really high end kids. And then this year, I think they're probably the deepest, maybe the best team. Just top to bottom. We in those other teams, we'd never had a 6'3" post player that can stretch to the 3 and knock it down and can be really dominant on the boards. Obviously those teams had Delaney, which is an X factor, but Pippa shot the ball probably better. She was 60, 40, 80 this year. So, and high volume. So 60 from 2, 40 from 3, and 80 from free throw line. And then led our team in assists and steals. And then defensively was our best defender on ball. And so you just can't, there's just a difference between those two, but who's bringing the most value to the team. I mean, Delaney could definitely just carry a team by herself, and that's a unique thing and a nice thing for a coach to know. But just we'll see. I mean, this team's young. They've got another year to get under their belt. And so before somebody told me early on they
All right. Seems like we had a little bit of an issue there with the rest of the Alan Gibb interview. But if you want to hear the rest, you can find it wherever you find your podcasts at Hoop City Show, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I did not get lost. You got lost. Obviously, yes, Alan Gibb, he's from Raymond, Alberta, southern Alberta, but his daughter Delaney Gibb is really lighting it up in the NCAA women's bracket for BYU. I believe she had, this would have been recorded on Tuesday, which means the night before she had a career high in 3-pointers made with 7, and is absolutely torching everybody. All right. It cannot be expressed enough how a Alberta girl is kicking everybody else's butt. All right, like it is almost unfathomable to me, because I'm a guy that grew up in Alberta and in Canada, where hockey is so central to everything that we do. And then to see the absolute dominance that someone from Alberta is putting up against people where it's a lot more inspired to play sports like basketball or football or anything like that. And she's just lighting the world on fire. The best player on that team. I mean, like she was the best player in Canada. All right. Like that's where we are here. Her last game was Thursday, March 26th against Stanford. She played 36 minutes. She had 27 points, 4 assists, 7 boards. Sounds pretty dominant to me. This is only her second year at BYU, by the way. She's playing today at 3. Oh, no, not today. The 30th. So that would be Monday at 3 p.m. Make sure you catch that. They're playing against Kansas. But yeah, this season, 32 minutes, 18 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals a game, 4.5 turnovers. Not great. But she's getting it done from 3 and from the field, and I think we're only going to see what she's doing increase so much. I mean, I can't get over what I'm looking at here. 7 of 11 from 3, 11 of 19 totally against against the Missouri Tigers, and 32 minutes of action. Like that's a great night. Obviously, comes up big against after rebounds. That's the word. Basketball show. You'd think I remember the word rebound. She rebounds after an unfortunate night against AAMU, or the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Only 11 points in 26 minutes. Not a particularly great shooting night, but she rebounds big and is really putting Alberta on the map. So I'm hoping that in the NC2A, as we call it around the office here, that they'll start looking to other places in Canada more for the collegiate talent, other than just places like Toronto, which is an absolute basketball player factory. I mean, SGA, reigning MVP, again, just got to put that out there. He's from Hamilton, Hamilton, Ontario. That's where my family lives. Fun fact. But yes, I'm really hoping that goes. How many Alberta players are or were in March Madness from Brew Crew? I don't actually have the list in front of me, but I know Paul gave me the list of just Albertans playing in the NCAA, and I believe it was 22 ladies and I think about 18 men. And Long Island University, their top 2 scorers are Canadian, but they are not from Alberta. So I unfortunately did not put to memory where our Alberta talent was from, Brew Crew, but I can go and find that for you shortly. I wish he had emailed it to me, but alas, Paul gave me the paper copy of Alberta talent in the NC2A. And we're talking Div 1. We're not talking Div 2 with that. We're going to take a break here. This is Hoop City with Paul Sturck. Coming up, I'll be breaking down the NBA MVP race with graphics. Very excited. I made a whole new background for it and everything. So I'm pretty amped up. Hope you guys are amped up too. This is Hoop City with Paul Sturck with guest host Josh Fenwick on your sports leader, Sports 1440.